Radio Play Comics is meant to adapt the stories, mostly, of great unadapted, old and forgotten comics from the past. I use voice acting and narration to abridge the work as much as possible without lessening its impact, and to bring these stories to life the best way I can. Please enjoy. Hi, I'm Nick, and welcome to the Fusion Space for today's episode of Radio Play Comics, Before Watchmen, Dr. Manhattan. Before Watchmen was a series of prequel comics to the original Watchmen, further developing its characters and revealing a bit more of the world's history, and their own. Nothing here is meant to change or break the canon set by Watchmen, only to fill in some of the many blank spots in ways that feel congruous with the main book. There is no overarching narrative, and the books only tie into each other in small ways, so any can be enjoyed on their own. I'll be adapting them all eventually, spaced out with my other long-running series, and in this order most likely, ordered as they begin chronologically. Minutemen tells the story of the origin of superheroes in this world and the first team who operated in the 1940s, their rise and fall, and the secret dark history behind the happy public face of their story. Ozymandias is a chilling portrait of a villain in the making, and his is a series of heartbreaks given to him by the world, hardening his heart while sharpening his mind. It's a grim road he walks, but he is also undoubtedly the most effective hero of his time. Comedian is another walk into darkness as he changes through several wars and changes in power in the government, while Dr. Manhattan's view is of the universe itself and the largest scale as he mucks with quantum physics and time. Night Owl shows his origins and the team of himself and Rorschach in action in their early days, while Rorschach's book focuses on his time alone in the 70s, and one brief window of his life, as does Silk Spectre's but in the 60s in her youth, while Dollar Bill and Moloch both tell their life stories. So you can see there's a wide range of styles of story being told, and in a great variety of ways. John's tale will begin from within the main book of Watchmen itself, and being a time traveler, he can leave one moment and have this entire adventure before returning to the next millisecond as if he had never left. Or can he? John will examine his history and the moment of his origin in the intrinsic field chamber, and he will push past a small barrier which he describes as being like popping a soap bubble. However, this will fracture his perception of linear time into endless possibilities, all spurred on by his own choices. In scientific terms, he becomes the quantum observer for all of reality, or at least he becomes unable to find the old order of events in this new chaos, and thus is unable to set things right. It's unclear if he actually is manipulating the entire universe, or only his own perception of it, because even John cannot see beyond his own perception, even when it includes all of time, and now possible time. Along the way to fixing the damage he's caused, he will examine his own history, moments from his childhood and his young manhood which shaped his internal character. He will also visit his father one final time as Dr. Manhattan, and upon seeing what John has become, he will grieve that his son is truly gone. John will also solve the mystery of his own origin. He was certain that he had enough time to get his coat from the test chamber before it closed. So what happened to cause his creation as Dr. Manhattan in the first place? It is not the happiest remembrance, but it does provide more of John's unique melancholy perspective on life, and it actually extends beyond the pages of the main book of Watchmen for its ending, as John makes good on what he said to Adrian as he left Earth behind. Maybe for good. This book will interact with events shown both in the Ozymandias prequel, which were only alluded to there, and the plot of the main book of Watchmen, which is a true rarity for the Before Watchmen series, and something reserved only for the time-traveling Doctor. It will also touch on the events of Minutemen, but only in a minor way, just a few words John shared with Hollis Mason at a party which shows up in a lot of the series, and ties the world's first age history of superheroes together with the second age somewhat. For instance, the same party also appears in Ozymandias, and it's when Adrian first met the good doctor. There's no other way to put it. This is a weird story, and it goes some weird places, but I think it's pretty good nonetheless. And would you expect anything else for so unique a character? So, now that you know roughly what you're in for, let's begin. Thou knowest, Lord, the secrets of our hearts. Shut not thy merciful ears to our prayers, but spare us, Lord most holy, O God most mighty, O holy and merciful Saviour. Thou most worthy Judge eternal, suffer us not at our last hour for any pains of death to fall from thee. Amen. John stands at Eddie Blake's funeral, off by himself, away from the crowd of mourners. I watch as a box containing a mystery is lowered into the soil. Of those attending, I am the only one who understands that all boxes are mysteries containing universes. Germany, August 14th, 1938. I am 9 years old. I am unwrapping a birthday present from my father. Shh! Quantum physics says that as long as the box is closed, it could contain anything in any state of existence. Possible things in the box include a kitten complete with air holes punched in the box.
Wow!
A teddy bear.
Wow!
And a baseball in a catcher's mitt.
Wow!
The observer affects the observed, at each step creating new universes, new possibilities. In other quantum probabilities, my father gave me wooden soldiers, a toy castle, construction blocks.
Wow!
But in this quantum universe, this was inside the box. John holds a large, ornate clock shaped very much like the castle he will one day build on the surface of Mars.
A clock! It's beautiful!
Your mother thinks it's a bit much for a 9-year-old, but I think it will help you understand that time has weight and power. The power to change lives. Even a second can make the difference between life and death.
It's August 20th, 1959. I'm entering the test chamber in the Intrinsic Field Center. I assume I have time to get my coat. I'm wrong. The timer on the vault door flips from 28 seconds directly to 4 with no one to observe it. 1 second becomes 0. The present is wrapped. What's inside the box? The chamber activates, removing John Osterman's intrinsic field. A teenage John shakes the last caramel corns from a box into his mouth and returns to fixing a watch.
Just a little more.
He bites down on something hard.
Ow! What the?
Taking it out, he sees it is a small blue figure of a man with a ring on his head. Accidents happen. That's what everyone says. But in a quantum universe, there are no such things as accidents. Only possibilities and probabilities folded into existence by perception. It's October 1985. The photograph is in my hand. 12 seconds from now, it falls and flutters to the dry Martian ground. I'm looking at me, through the camera lens, where it's July 1959 right now. Me looking at me, all happening at the same time. Proof, I suppose, that I am. But the question is, why am I? Accidents happen. Except they don't. So why am I what I am? What's in the box? June 1960. The group of heroes known as the Minutemen are holding a fundraiser to combat famine in India. I'd told President Rajendra Prasad that I could simply change the nitrogen content in the topsoil to make the land fertile so they could grow anything they wanted. He couldn't understand the concept. The scale was too big. It didn't fit in his box. Hollis Mason, the first night owl, talked with John apart from the crowd of partygoers. You don't age, do you? This is my perception of myself. My perception does not change. Hence my appearance does not change or age. Well, that must be handy. Wish I could do that. I'm 10 years older and 20 pounds fatter than I imagined myself. Every morning I look in the mirror and think, how the hell did that fat old guy get in there? And then I realize it's me. Sometimes, well, tonight, I think maybe I should just walk away. What would you do instead? Fix cars. Can you imagine that? There's something about fixing things that, I don't know, makes me feel good. Maybe that's why we got into all this stuff in the first place. To fix things. To fix the world. But I can't. I want to force cars to work because I can't force the universe to make sense. Can't control everything. March 3rd, 1949. A teenage John sits fixing watches in the study of a large house while his cousin tries to get him to go with her and her friends to the lake to have fun. John remains steadfast and studious, declining the offer to stay and continue his work. His cousin tells him he ought not to be so stuffy and organized like the others said he was, that if he opened himself up to surprises, he could live a happier life. But her words fall on deaf ears. She goes off with her friends without him, and John keeps working, alone, long into the night. Symmetry, order, control.
It's all about control.
May 12th, 1959, Gila Flats. Professor Glass is welcoming me to Gila Flats.
Oppenheimer and those guys at the Manhattan Project showed us atomic power can destroy the world. Our job is to figure out how to control atomic power so it can change the world. Glad to have you with us, John. Show him around, Wally.
Yes, sir.
Wally shows John the large steel vault that will change his life forever.
This is where they're doing intrinsic field experiments. It's like, what if there's some field holding stuff together apart from gravity? This is our time-locked test vault, so that when they're trying to separate objects from their intrinsic fields, no radiation gets out. We got a lot of new safety features like that here. I'll show you where the real heavy-duty thinking gets done around here. We call it the bestiary. It's over in Building 6.
Wally directs John to the bar. As Wally steers me into the room, I feel a sudden sensation of déjà vu. I've seen this place before, except that it was deserted then, derelict, with starlight shining down upon its rotted floorboards through the collapsed ceiling. In the past, John sees the bar as it is in his future. 1966. John attends the first meeting of the Crime Busters with Janie Slater.
If Crime Busters is to become an efficient crime-fighting organization, it's important that we learn to work together.
What's the matter?
You were staring at that girl is the matter. Now pay attention.
I'd like to start by pairing people up into groups of two so we can learn about each other's ideas, goals, and what we hope to achieve with Crime Busters. That's why I had each of you put your ID on a slip of paper.
What's in the box?
Our first is Dr. Manhattan, whose presence here tonight honors all of us.
It's all a matter of perspective.
And the one he's partnered with tonight is...
Captain Metropolis pulls a second slip of paper with Rorschach's symbol on it, but it then swirls. And perspectives can be changed with the slightest nudge. And resolves into the Silk Spectre's name.
The Silk Spectre.
And a new quantum universe of events and potentialities is created in an instant. Born in the split between what might have been and what now is. Two universes play out simultaneously in John's mind, one in which he works with each of them as a partner. In the universe where he works with Rorschach, Silk Spectre instead partners up with Night Owl. In that instant, the future me that would have worked with Rorschach ceased to exist, and became the me that worked with Laurie, that loved Laurie.
John, I think I'd like to go home now, please.
What?
I said I want to go home now.
Please, don't all leave.
Dan's owlship takes off. Janie.
I saw the way you were looking at her. Cheap, trashy, jailbait. You did something so you'd be assigned to her, didn't you?
No. In this quantum reality, I was always paired up with her tonight. The statement was true. It was also utterly beside the point.
It's because I'm getting older, isn't it? You want someone younger, don't you?
I love you, Janie. The statement was true. It, too, was utterly beside the point.
Take me home. Just take me home.
Being home would help, at least for a while. A change in perspective. John teleports them home. A change in perspective. John sees the perspectives of many people from both universes. Hollis Mason.
I just can't do this anymore, Doc.
I'm quitting. I need to get my life in order. Figure out who I am beneath the mask.
Jack Kennedy.
And the arrival of your power on the world scene assures America that our soldiers need not get involved in situations like that in Vietnam.
Janie Slater.
I'm leaving you.
Silk Spectre.
I love you.
Richard Nixon.
Shame about what happened to Jack, but America's got enemies who won't be spooked into submission. That's gonna require soldiers and tanks and guns and, well, you, son.
Night Owl.
And I think we're off to a good start, but we can do better. Come up with some new ideas.
Rorschach.
He doesn't have what it takes. Better off by myself. Should never have worked with me in the first place. Always thought he belonged with Silk Spectre.
Eddie's button, with its stain of blood, speaks its silent volume. One gear turns, it turns another, which turns another, but it all starts with one tick of the clock, the uncoiling of the spring. A meteor shower rains down over John's glass castle on Mars. The first gear whose turning set everything else in motion. Why did the door to the reaction chamber close when I was sure I had time? With my body broken down into an infinity of quantum possibilities, with each subsequent choice creating yet another possibility, another me, in the final analysis, who am I? Why am I?
I'm sorry to bring you such unfortunate news, Mr. Osterman.
August 1959. John's father grieves for his son, his head held in his hands.
But there's nothing we can do. We can handle all the arrangements for the funeral, even though there's nothing technically left to bury.
My son is not dead.
Mr. Osterman.
My son is not dead. If you did this to him, then you can fix it.
We tried to reverse the intrinsic field generators in the hope that it might somehow recreate him. But no!
He smashes his watch-fixing table and begins to pick up the many small pieces.
You just need to find the pieces and put them together to fix him.
November 10th, 1959. John's brain knits together his nervous system.
One gear that connects to another.
November 14th, 1959. He regrows his muscles onto his skeleton.
To another. And then you turn the watch. And he's not dead. Just have to fix him.
Dr. Manhattan appears at his father's bedside, softly glowing blue. Father, it's me. I'm right here. It's me. It's John. Dad? What's wrong? What's...
God help me. God in heaven. My son is dead. My son is gone.
John's father buries his face in his hands.
They've taken him from me.
He was right. It took me years to see that, but in the end, he was right. I am not John, but John became me. His perspective informed me. His perspective created me? Is that possible? What happened in that moment, that surge of energy that resulted in my birth? If I am a quantum effect, what was the quantum cause? Whatever it was, did it happen before the incident or during the incident? What's in the box? Dr. Manhattan remembers the moment of his death as John in the brilliant white light. I know that I can ride the timeline back and forth between the future and the moment of my creation. And the moment of deja vu in Gila Flats shows that even before the incident my consciousness was able to ride the timeline forward, past the point of my body's destruction.
I've never tried the reverse. To extend my consciousness to a point before my creation. To see if I could experience those moments not as dead memories, but as alive as this moment. I always thought it would be like the universe trying to remember itself before the Big Bang. And perhaps it is time to try. He vanishes from the surface of Mars in 1985. John's consciousness travels as energy back through the time stream. I pass backwards through moments held together like pearls on a string. Janie, Laurie, the Minutemen, Father. Closer and closer to the moment of my birth in the fires of the test chamber. At the last I sense resistance, like surface tension surrounding this final moment. A bubble. I push through anyway. Dr. Manhattan appears outside Gila Flats. Gila Flats.
Back from lunch early, Dr. Osterman?
Yeah, left Janie's watch in my coat pocket. Just fixed it.
Gotta give it to you, Doc. Seems like there's nothing broken so bad you can't put it back together again.
Most people try to fix the problem where it is, not where it started. It's like realizing you're 5 miles off course in the desert. The mistake isn't where you are. It was that first step that took you off course. Wally. They can't see me. I don't exist in this time yet. It's just my consciousness that's present. So if you'll excuse me, I have to zip on over to the IF chamber. I'm pretty sure I left my coat there while we were resetting the field chamber for today's test.
Better hurry, or your coat and her watch are gonna end up molecularly disassembled. And I don't think even you can fix that.
Don't worry, I've got plenty of time. All the time in the world. John goes in the test chamber to retrieve his coat. There you are. 28 seconds remain on the clock. John exits the test chamber with plenty of time to spare. But it's not possible. He hums a happy tune as he leaves the room. The counter ticks down to 4 seconds as normal as Dr. Manhattan watches. Beep, beep, beep. It's 1:15 p.m., August 20th, 1959. The moment I was born. The moment of the accident. Because accidents happen. Except this one doesn't happen. Boxes contain mysteries. Boxes are mysteries. Until we open them, we can never really be sure what's inside. A child form of John opens a box with a blue glow inside. I should be inside this box at this moment, but I'm not. The chamber operates as normal. I'm not. So, where am I? Why am I? Blinding light streams out from within it. What's inside the box? Dr. Manhattan watches the test chamber operate without his past John self inside it. The Gila Flats intrinsic field chamber, 1:15 p.m., August 20th, 1959. This was where I was remade. This is the moment I was reborn. How then can I be staring into an empty box? How can this be what is? Yet he clearly remembers his origin. If this is what I remember, if this is what happened, as it must have happened, or I would not be here to see it. 1:15 p.m. I watch myself leaving, but I cannot be leaving, because I did not leave. Something is wrong. Something is...
Everything alright?
Fine. Found my coat just where I left it. Now I can give Janie back her watch instead of a handful of molecules. John looks at Janie's watch. That's strange.
What?
I fixed it this morning, but now it's not working again. The second hand isn't moving. It's frozen at 1:15.
Maybe you didn't fix it as good as you thought, Doc.
No, you don't understand. When I fix a watch, it stays fixed.
Not from my perspective. First time for everything, I guess.
John takes Janie back to the Carnival Midway on the Jersey Shore where her watch was stepped on. Janie playfully chides him for possibly using the watch as an excuse to get her alone, but John directs her to a specific game on the Midway and begins throwing balls to knock over bottles. While he misses twice, Janie reminds him of Hank Meadows, who John replaced at Gila Flats when he died from a surprise tumor, despite him usually being so careful around radioactive materials. John hits the bottles with his final ball, and the attendant hands Janie a stuffed bear. John points out that the bear is torn in the back, and asks Janie to investigate it. Janie takes a small box from inside the bear.
John,
Yes, love?
what's in the box?
Could be anything. Why don't you open it and look inside? She takes out an engagement ring. I figured I've got a 50-50 chance of hearing what I hope I hear. So, yes or no? Janie throws her arms around him.
Yes! Oh, darling, most definitely yes!
John waves to the barker as they walk away. Thanks again for your help. My pleasure, pal. That's my specialty. That's what I do. Providing the illusion of free will. Dr. Manhattan observes all this in silence. I don't know. I don't think anything about this looks right. I'd prefer to be out of this monkey suit, but Janie says it's her family's tradition to stay in the wedding clothes until the end of the reception. Here, let me fix your tie. I never could get mine right either. Always needed your mother to do it for me. John's father fixes his tie. I'm very proud of your son. She's a good woman, and you're a good man. For a while there, I was afraid I'd never see this day. Well, we had some rocky moments over Christmas, but it's not that. Last year, I had a dream that they came to me from the lab and told me you'd been killed. It was so real. Couldn't get it out of my head for days. Well, now that I'm moving to D.C. to teach physics at Georgetown, we both know that dream can never come true. So put it out of your head. I will. Could you tell Janie I'll be there in 2 shakes? You got it. Manhattan continues to watch from afar as John talks to a young boy reading a comic book.
Mr. Osterman, is it true you're a scientist?
Yes, it is.
Is it hard? I mean, the math part?
Sometimes. Why?
Well, I want to be a scientist too someday, so I can go to Mars.
And why do you want to go to Mars?
So I can see the blue people.
What blue people? The boy shows John the cover of his book, featuring a giant blue man and a woman in a yellow and black spacesuit.
This blue man, he and his people used to live on Mars, but then they all died, and he's the only one left.
Well, I don't think there are any blue men on Mars, but who knows? Maybe someday we'll go there. He pats the boy's head. Janie, which dressing room are you in?
Guess.
Always a surprise with you. Okay. Left it is, then. Right it is, then. When John makes both choices, 2 universes occur at the same time, as his perception unfolds into possible realities. In these 2 worlds, only the radio newscast and the newspaper are different. Left it is, then. Right it is, then.
Where President Kennedy repeated his determination that Russian ships carrying atomic weapons would not be allowed to reach Cuba.
It's so terrible. What if something goes wrong? The whole world.
It'll be okay, Janie. The world can take care of itself. The world will always go right on ticking. In the left universe, Edward Blake is brought to the president to advise him. In the right universe, it is Adrian Veidt. Speaking of ticking, I think I'll take another shot at the watch when I get home tonight.
You are a glutton for punishment. I think it's hysterical. Like your own personal Moby Dick.
In the left, the radio reports.
The president has denied sending CIA advisors to aircraft carriers near the Russian fleet to oversee the situation.
And in the right,
The President has confirmed asking Ozymandias to join the aircraft carriers near the Russian fleet to oversee the situation.
In both universes, Janie's watch is hung up on a hook with a sign reading, "The one that got away."
The situation is grave, but not beyond recall, said the President.
Left. In the left universe, the comedian favors a force-first approach.
I object to this in the strongest possible terms. The President has no right. Some decisions are too important to be left to the conventional military. This is an intelligence issue. They're pussies. You're all pussies. So let's get this over with. Let's get it all over with.
The American ships fire on the Soviets, and the Soviets launch their nuclear missiles in response, leading to Washington exploding in a mushroom cloud. Left. Right. In the right universe, Ozymandias prefers to negotiate.
I object to this in the strongest possible terms. The President has no right.
Some decisions are too important to be left to the conventional military. This is an issue of intelligence. They don't want war any more than we do. So let's talk this over. Let's talk it all over. A radio signal is sent to the Soviets instead.
Captain, we have a message from the Americans. They say they will move their Jupiter missiles out of Turkey if we remove all missiles from Cuba.
The missiles are put back into their silos, and the relative peace is maintained. The right is also the sequence of events shown to have happened in actual reality in the Ozymandias series. John finds Janie in her wedding dress. There you are.
Lucky.
Smart.
Maybe. And maybe I was in both rooms. Did you stop to think about that?
No. Now, come on. Everybody's waiting.
My father wants the first dance, but traditionally the groom has the right of first call on the first dance or the last dance of the night. So which do you prefer? The first dance or the last dance?
The young boy's comic book now shows the Capitol exploding in a mushroom cloud. The first dance. The last dance. John makes another set of choices, which causes another universal split. First dance.
Where President Kennedy died today in Dallas.
The comedian has shot President Kennedy in this universe. Last dance.
Where President Kennedy escaped with only minor injuries in Dallas.
While in the other universe, his assassin has been stopped by two men. First dance. As second-term President Richard Nixon resigned his office today under the scandal of Watergate. Last dance. As President Nixon accepted his party's nomination to run for an unprecedented third term. First dance. In the first universe, President Reagan has succeeded President Nixon and makes strides to end the Cold War.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Last dance. In the last, President Nixon makes a fatal choice to launch a nuclear first strike.
I'm not going to sit here and let this country be nuked into submission by the Reds. If we have to resort to a first strike, then by gosh, that's what we'll do.
Moments which interlock like gears to form the original timeline are scattered amidst endless ends of the world, nuclear explosions and meteors striking the Earth among them. Like pieces of a broken watch, the pieces of original time and possible time lie broken before Dr. Manhattan in a sea of confusion, all of them created by John's mundane choices. One ticket to New York, please. I'll have the red wine, not the white. I think I'll go for a walk. Taxi. Which movie should we see? Fourth floor, please. Sorry I'm late. Sorry I'm early. I'll take the job. I don't know. Save the last dance for me. The last dance. The last.
thing I want to do is to even try to explain the Schrodinger's cat idea.
Oh, come on.
We believe in you, Wally. Give it a shot.
Wally, 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 Wally.
Okay. Jeez. I'm sure either one of the guys at the table with the 12-story brain can explain it a lot better than me, but here's how I understand it. First, you make a box, and you install a glass capsule of poison gas, and a mechanism with a 50-50 chance of breaking it, so it could go either way. Next, you put a cat in the box. What the cat thinks about this is anybody's guess. Then, you close the box. Now, standing outside the box, all you know is there's a 50-50 chance of the poison being released.
So the cat in the box is either alive or dead.
No. According to quantum physics, the cat is both alive and dead. In quantum physics, the observer affects the observed, the way a particle is a particle only when you're looking at it. Look away, it becomes a wave. Look at it again, it becomes a particle. So the cat exists in both states until the quantum observer opens the box and looks inside. Then the two quantum possibilities collapse into one reality. A live cat or a dead cat. John, as he is now, is symbolized by the live cat, and Dr. Manhattan by the dead cat. Point being, whatever you may think you know, you don't really know what's in the box until you open it up and look inside. Janie opens her ring box to reveal a blue glow. Of course, that raises the question. What happens if you don't open the box?
Well, depending on how you set the conditions of the experiment, the longer the box remains closed, the longer the quantum observer doesn't, well, observe. Unanticipated factors could begin to alter the results, multiplying the effects, creating more random quantum probabilities and pocket universes, all of them equally real, jockeying with one another for the moment when the box is opened. Endless versions of the live cat John pile up inside the imaginary box of the test vault. And all those possibilities finally collapse into one reality, as perceived by the quantum observer. Visible to himself only in his reflections, Dr. Manhattan continues to observe this reality. John works in the basement while Janie talks to him from the top of the stairs.
You're not working on that watch again, are you?
Guilty as charged.
I could just throw it out and buy a new one.
That's not the point. Things work the way they do because they can't not work the way they do. Water flows downhill. Push a child's swing out and it comes back to you. It doesn't just park at the farthest point of its arc. Tighten a mainspring and it has to unwind when you start to release the tension. Everything here is in the right place, in the right configuration, to do what it has to do under physical law. But the watch doesn't work. It should work. By all rights, it has to work. But it doesn't.
Maybe the watch isn't broken. Maybe time is broken.
Very funny.
Now, come to bed.
All right. John heads up the stairs. Any more news on the Soviet threat?
Nixon says they don't have the stomach to start something they know they can't finish.
Dr. Manhattan appears in the basement. He inspects the watch. Maybe time is broken. Dr. Manhattan picks up the photograph he knows so well from his own timeline. Blinding light fills the basement. As outside, nuclear missiles crisscross the sky, exploding as they strike the earth. The world is engulfed in nuclear fire as Manhattan's energy recollects far in space above it. Manhattan's energy forms a ring around the planet like the one in his hydrogen atom icon, with the Earth as its nucleus. Is this what I am? Is this what I have become? What have I done? What have I done? For I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. Robert Oppenheimer, director, The Manhattan Project.
Dr. Manhattan tries to reconcile two different realities he perceives to be real at the same time. One in which he has his powers, and a life where he never became Dr. Manhattan. October 1985. I'm on Mars. I am holding the photograph in my hand. October 1985. I'm at home with Janie. I am holding the plate in my hand. August 20th, 1959. 1:15 p.m. I am trapped inside the intrinsic field chamber. August 20th, 1959. 1:15 p.m. I am leaving the intrinsic field chamber to have lunch with Janie. The two selves merge together. I am Legion. Manhattan perceives his infinite varying selves spiraling off into the distance, intertwined together. Ego sum. He ponders his photograph on Mars. The only way this could happen, the only way one quantum reality could splinter and fracture into an infinite number of possibilities with me at the center, is if I somehow became the quantum observer. I didn't realize it because I had only followed the stream of my existence up to a certain point, never going back to a moment before the incident in the field chamber, until I climbed the mountain high enough to see everything around me. At some point I did something, saw or touched something that tore this quantum reality and created another. The effect then rippled back and forth along my timeline from the moment of my recreation, creating new realities every time I made a decision. But how? When did I?
John, I think I'd like to go home now, please.
I hear myself thinking, no, it can't be that. Even as I know, with absolute and complete certainty, that this was indeed the moment. 1966. Dr. Manhattan remembers the night of the first Crime Busters meeting when he changed the slip of paper with Rorschach's symbol to instead read Silk Spectre. What's in the box? It was all a matter of perspective, and perspectives could be changed with the slightest of nudges. The Silk Spectre. When I changed the outcome, I imagined that I had simply changed the future, creating a new set of events and potentialities in the instant between what might have been and what now was. I assumed that the future me that would have worked with Rorschach simply ceased to exist, overwritten by the me that would work with Laurie, that loved Laurie. It never occurred to me that both timelines would become equally real, splintering reality in both directions, past and future. Janie pulls Dr. Manhattan away.
John, I think I'd like to go home now, please.
In using my power to bend reality to my will, I ensured that my choices, my will, would begin to form new pocket realities with every whim. I have named the disease, but what is the cure? Manhattan remembers words of wisdom his father gave him when he was a young man. What you have to remember is that there's nothing broken so bad that you can't put it back together again with enough effort. Sometimes you can't see what the problem is until you go close, until you look deep inside. It's when you look beyond the edge of what you think you know that you can finally arrive at the truth.
How long did it take before you were good at fixing watches?
It took a very long time, but I was determined to learn, to honor your mother's sacrifice. He looks off. I know the reason. I know the story. I lived it with him. It was 1939. The Second World War had just begun. I was 10. German tanks and soldiers roll into the Osterman small town.
You should go, Joseph, while you still have time.
No, I'm not leaving you. I can protect you.
My darling, you can't control the world. Sooner or later, they will find me, and they will come for me.
The others will not tell.
Of course they will.
John's mother and father hold each other.
Your friends, your cousins, they were not happy when you chose to marry a Jew. They had nothing to gain by protecting me, and much to lose. I am trapped here. The soldiers will never let me through. But you can escape. You can take John with you. Get to the port.
No! Listen to me. I can sell what's left of my mother's jewelry and buy a wagon. We can go out by back roads, too muddy for their vehicles. We can slip away in the middle of the night, and they will never know. I promise. We can make it, Inge.
Saying it does not make it so, Joseph. You cannot make the world what you want because you want it. But I love you, and I will go with you, even into the unknown.
Joseph directs John into a wooden box on the back of their wagon.
John, up here. You must hide here. If we are stopped, we can say we are bringing goods to market. If they see you, they will know we are a family trying to escape.
John gets in the box.
Remember, you must not make any noise, no matter what happens.
Joseph drives his family's wagon through the snowy night.
Ha!
In just 5 kilometers, we would be able to turn on to the back roads that led to the border. They found us in 4. A German soldier with a gun shouts at them.
Get off the wagon, now! I don't understand. What have we done? I said get down off the wagon! Here, let me get my papers. I will see your papers here. Sigmund, search the wagon.
As Sigmund passes the couple, John's mother jumps down off the wagon.
Halt!
She runs, and the first soldier fires at her.
Halt! Sigmund, get the other one. Down, off the wagon, I said.
Joseph pulls a Mauser pistol and shoots the guard,
Inge!
whose machine gun fire goes wild, spraying John's box with a few bullets.
Inge!
Joseph runs after his wife.
No!
He shoots the other soldier before he can aim his gun.
Stay away!
Joseph rushes to Inge's side in the snow.
Inge!
You should...
Don't talk. Save your strength. I can get you to a doctor. We can save you.
My darling Joseph, you cannot control the world. You...
Inge passes away. Joseph returns to the wagon.
John,
He sees the bullet holes in the box.
please, God, let him be alive. Let him live. Let him...
Joseph opens the box, revealing a live John. All the bullets have missed him.
John, thank God. Thank God.
Joseph holds John in the snow.
I still believe in my heart that I could have gotten us through. But when your mother saw them ready to search the wagon, she made a choice between one possibility and another.
Joseph sees both possible outcomes as clear as day. John shot dead in one box, alive and well in the other.
In that moment, she gave away all the choices she might have made in the future, so that you and I could have them. All her moments are frozen. All her choices are made. She sacrificed her world for us. Never forget that, John.
Joseph and his son hold each other.
Never forget that. There's nothing broken so bad that you can't put it back together again with enough effort.
As I look at the random moment that brought Janie and me together, I know what I must do to fix the delicate clockwork mechanism I have broken. Once I became the quantum observer, every time I made a choice, it fractured reality over and over. So the only way to reunite the timelines is by erasing all those choices. The irony is not lost on me. I am the most powerful being in the known universe. I can do anything. But for the world to be what it needs to be, what it must be, I must sacrifice my own choices, my own free will, so that they can have choices. Manhattan sorts out the pieces of the original timeline from the noise as best he can, reconstructing it from his memory. His father and mother frame a young John as his head explodes into an irradiated skeleton, which would in turn birth Dr. Manhattan. Much later, with a scream of rage that would be seen on live television, he leaves Earth.
Leave me alone!
In this new, united timeline, whatever I have done in the future is done. The decisions are made and cannot be changed. They are as irrevocable as the choices I made in the past. Because all those moments are the same moment. One moment, eternal and simultaneous. Janie and Laurie, the most important women in John's adult life, pass before him.
I'm leaving you.
So I must freeze that moment, that eternity, like a fly frozen in amber. He strides over Vietnam, hundreds of feet tall. I am limitless, but I must become limited, and thus let this one world, this one reality, survive intact. He witnesses the comedian kill the mother of one of his children, her baby along with her, and does not act to stop him. Like my mother, I must give up all of my choices, so that they can make of this reality what they wish. I begin moving forward and backward at the same time, ensuring that everything happened just the way it did in the original timeline, without the slightest variation. Janie greets John in the bar on his first day at Gila Flats.
Oh, you're the new guy. You're replacing Hank Meadows, right?
I am?
I guess so. Hank died last fall.
In one timeline, I call from Princeton on the advice of my professors to get some information on the decay of certain atomic particles. The distraction allowed Hank to see the uncovered uranium container behind him in time to avoid fatal exposure, and I am never offered his job at Gila Flats, so I ensure that in this timeline, no such call comes.
Some kind of tumor. There's his picture behind the bar there. The guy with glasses. You know, you're pretty young for a research scientist.
Yeah, well, my dad sort of pushed me into it. It's August 7th, 1945. In one timeline, I asked my father to take me to see the Brooklyn Dodgers. The experience leaves him in a good mood, so that when he learns of the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima, his reaction is tempered. So I wipe out that choice, ensuring that on this hot, humid Brooklyn morning, we are at home. I with my watches, my father with his memories. Joseph touches a picture of his wife.
It's single bomb. One bomb and they can win a war. So what was it for, Inge? What was all that death for? Why did I have to lose you? John, where are you?
In here, I'm practicing on your old pocket watch before it's time for school.
Forget pocket watches. Have you seen the news?
News?
They dropped the atomic bomb on Japan. The whole city gone. These are no times for a repair of watches. This changes everything. There will be more bombs. They are the future. Atomic science. This is what the world will need.
My dad sort of pushed me into it. That happens to me a lot. Other people seem to make all my moves for me.
I'll bet. Can I get you a drink?
Other people seem to make all my moves for me. She buys me a beer, the first time anyone has ever done this for me. Their hands touch as Janie passes him the glass. It's July 1959. I'm returning to New Jersey on vacation, visiting old university friends. Janie shares the trip from Arizona. Her mother lives in Jersey. She calls home from the station, but nobody answers. In one timeline, the wrong timeline, I offer to return the favor of that first night and buy her a beer at a local tavern. So I wipe out every other choice, ensuring that in this timeline I suggest we kill time at a local amusement park. Because killing time is exactly what I am doing.
Hey, young lovers, hold it.
But we're not. A photographer takes their picture on the boardwalk.
There, that's just beautiful. A beautiful picture, particularly of the lady.
In some realities, some choices, I walk faster or slower, turn left or right. I eliminate each of them, keeping us on target and on schedule for the moment the strap breaks on Janie's watch, timing it precisely so that a passing fat man steps on the watch, breaking it. Back at the hotel, Janie asks if I can really repair it. Absolutely. Just give me a few days and it'll be good as new. 1 hour later, we are making love. As I touch her, I am already fixing the watch in my head. She is passionate. I am quiet, controlling myself, controlling the moment.
You can't control the world.
I can. I must. I will. Or there will be no world.
John, did you fix my watch yet?
I left it in my lab coat when we were resetting the RF chamber this morning. You wait right there. The accident is almost upon me now. John enters the test chamber. In some realities I hurry. In others I saunter. In some I stop and talk to Wally. In others I ache to get back to Janie. But I can resolve them all here, now, by using just a tiny bit of energy to reset the time lock, so that no matter when I walk in, I have only 5 seconds, not 30, before the door closes. It is August 20th, 1959, 1:15 p.m. No! John's life has depended upon a series of boxes, mysteries opening to resolve their possibilities into realities. First, the box he hid in as a boy. What's in the box? Next, the box with the slips of paper. What's in the box? Then the box containing the comedian and the mystery of who has killed him. What's in the box? And finally, the box of the test chamber he is currently in, his hands pressed to the glass. What's in the box? Janie's watch is working perfectly. Time moves forward as it should. And as the infinite number of quantum possibilities collapse into one singular reality, in the instant before the energy strikes, we become aware of each other. All of us in the box, together. Past, present, future. Live cat, dead cat. Live John, dead John. John and Dr. Manhattan see each other. Don't be afraid. The chamber activates and removes John Osterman's intrinsic field. And thus is the central mystery of John's broken origin resolved. The reason he didn't transform the first time was because he himself had to reset the clock, and by existing through that time without doing so, he overwrote his own history and broke his perception of time. Now that he has corrected it, he sees that it was always himself, a future self that he has only now just become, who caused the accident that was actually his destiny. John returns to the universe in normal time, entering reality at his own funeral. At 1:15 p.m., August 20th, 1959, I entered the intrinsic field chamber in the hope that I had put time, space, and the universe itself back together again as it needed to be, as it must be.
Thou knowest, Lord, the secrets of our hearts. Shut not thy merciful ears to our prayers, but spare us, Lord most holy, O God most mighty, O holy and merciful Savior.
And yet, I'm afraid to open my eyes, afraid that I didn't get it right, afraid that I missed something.
Thou most worthy Judge eternal, suffer us not at our last hour for any pains of death to fall from thee.
Amen.
Changes in perspective. I watch as a box containing a mystery is lowered into the soil. An empty box containing nothing, containing me, containing the last remnants of all my choices, dead and buried. John sees his own name on the tombstone and the date of his transformation as his death day. He reviews the interlocking gears of history, checking for errors. I step back into the time stream, and everything seems to be as it should. Except
It's not. Not exactly. There's something wrong.
If you watch the Ozymandias series, you might notice that this scene appears quite different there, with varying dialogue and different costumes for the thugs. This might simply be the variance of two people's memories of the same event, or it might be a subtle change in the timeline. I'm sorry I can't say for sure which, but it's not intended to matter. In any case, the date John chooses to speak with Adrian is December 29th, 1960.
I'll give you credit, well, some credit, for having decided that if you're going to steal antiquities, the British Museum would be the perfect place to do so. One-stop shopping, as they say. A little Chinese Third Dynasty here. A little first-century Rome there. Pretty soon, you've got a tidy little collection on your hands. Too bad you forgot one thing. You forgot to check the papers to see if I might be visiting.
Ozymandias easily punches and kicks the robbers unconscious.
That was far too easy. Isn't there anyone who can give me a real challenge these days?
John teleports in before him.
Hello, Adrian. You should have joined in on the fun. There was no point. You were winning. You had won. You have always won this fight. You're the only one I know who engages not just in declensions of language, but of time as well. That may seem a rather obscure bit of jollity, but to an audience of grammarians or physicists, I'm a rock star. So what can I do for you? We need to talk, but not here. I require privacy. All right, let me call my car, and this will be faster.
He teleports them both away. John and Adrian reappear in his office.
The first time someone teleports with me, it can be a traumatic experience. Are you?
Fine. I just don't remember having built the floor at such a whimsical angle.
Adrian pours himself a cup of water and sits at his desk.
So how do you do that, anyway? Disassemble component molecules and reassemble them elsewhere?
No, that would be a waste of effort and constitute the destruction of the body. I warp space around me so that I don't move. Space moves.
So you find it easier to move the universe than to move yourself?
Not necessarily easier. Less destructive, shall we say. At least, to you.
All right, John. Now that we're alone and you've disabled all my recording devices,
of course, also the backups.
Would you mind telling me what this is all about?
So, I tell him. I tell him about my travels through space and time, about accidentally becoming a quantum observer capable of creating new universes with even the most casual act. I tell him about how my decisions destroyed the Earth over and over, each new course coming to a fiery end punctuated with mushroom clouds as nuclear weapons obliterated the world. I tell him about destroying the very alternate universes I created. Other men, hearing such things, would faint, go mad, or run screaming from the room. He allows only a small tick in his expression, lasting the barest flicker of a second.
One of Adrian's eyes twitches slightly.
Nervousness, I assume. For some reason, I take great pleasure in catching it.
So what does any of this have to do with me?
After my work, there now remains just this one quantum reality, this one universe. But as I stretched forth my powers of perception, I sensed something wrong, something that wasn't there before. I can no longer see my future self clearly, almost as though there's some sort of static preventing me from seeing my future with clarity, like a thin curtain drawn before my eyes, allowing shapes and silhouettes, but no detail.
So, what can you see?
I see death.
John sees himself killing Rorschach.
I see destruction.
He sees the oncoming threat of nuclear Armageddon.
And I feel responsible.
And he sees blood splattered on the snow.
Tell me something. Because your abilities are tied to pure energy, could this static be caused by a massive energy discharge?
Such as?
Nuclear war. The end of the world. Doomsday. John stares into the sunshine over the city for a long moment. Yes. I thought I'd caught all of the probabilities at which the world ended in nuclear fire. But if this one got through, if this one ends the same way because of my mistakes. My father used to say, if you ask a centipede which foot goes first, it will sit there for hours, unable to move. I have put myself into a box, and I fear that if I move again, I will undo all that I have done. The choice of what to do cannot be mine. I've surrendered that freedom for all time. As the only man on the planet capable of understanding my dilemma, the decision must be yours. I can help you. The perspective shifts here, as well as the art in the book, and the character providing narration. The next several pages are printed upside down to show this shift, as Adrian effectively becomes the world's quantum observer at this moment, taking the mantle of the most powerful person in the world and the prime shaper of history from John. I have a small suggestion regarding the destruction of Earth. I work to keep my voice carefully modulated, my pulse slow and steady. No telling what John can detect. It's possible that, as you say, this curtain of static is produced by a nuclear war that destroys the world. But is that the only explanation? During his explanation, I fought to keep my feelings from registering, but I think a momentary tick of excitement may have slipped through. The only thing you really know for sure is that there is a curtain of static, not what it is, or how it got there. With luck, he didn't notice it. So, since we know it's coming, the smartest thing that is, I, can do is to define it, so we can control it. Meaning, what if there was no need for nukes? What if the world had access to unlimited power? What if there was no nuclear power? What if there was just you? Heartbeat jumped once. Don't react. Let him think it's just excitement at the idea. If we could find a way to replicate and synthesize the energy you create, we would be able to solve all the world's energy problems, eliminate poverty, eliminate the need for war. He can see inside the heart of neutrons and positrons, hear the whirring dance of subatomic particles. We can prevent the catastrophe you fear and explain the static, because it's you that you're sensing, your own energy taking the world to a new level of progress, even if it does clog up your frequencies a bit. But because he cannot go into the human heart, he's vulnerable to the simplest thing in all the universe. A lie. So, what do you say? I say yes. We will begin immediately. Tell me what you require, and I will provide it. Some of the technology I need may not exist yet. It will. Dr. Manhattan teleports away, leaving Adrian alone with the most dangerous thing in the world. His thoughts. The pieces of Ozymandias' grand plan form interlocking gears of their own through the history of the world, his pyramid of assassins covering the tracks of his manipulations and laying the foundations of his new utopia, atop a score of bodies, such as it has ever been with his kind. Everything happens exactly as it is shown in the main book of Watchmen. I know that I will bear upon my conscience the millions of people who will die as a result of what I intend to accomplish. I know that even the slightest errant heartbeat over the coming months will betray my intent to John. But this world, the last world, the world for which John has sacrificed so much, must live on. We must destroy the village to save the village. He said he saw himself in the snow, killing someone. I cannot escape the possibility that it's me. I will prepare for that eventuality, do all I can to protect myself. But if I die, I die. It is a worthy cause, and sacrifices must be made.
What are you waiting for? Do it! Do it! Do!
And in the aftermath of it all, John finds Adrian meditating in his study atop a golden pyramid, contemplating a model of the solar system. I hope you'd understand. Unlike Rorschach, Rorschach is no longer an issue. I'm leaving this galaxy for one less complicated. But you'd regained interest in human life. Yes, I have. I think perhaps I'll create some. Goodbye, Adrian. John, wait. Before you leave. I did the right thing, didn't I? It all worked out? In the end? Here their perspective shifts back as John resumes his place in the universe, now that Ozymandias' work is complete. And, for good or ill, nuclear disaster has been averted. In the end? Nothing ends, Adrian. Nothing ever ends. John, wait! What do you mean by... John fades from Adrian's view and travels into space as energy. I mean that the question, like the world, death, life, and the universe itself, are all matters of perspective. John appears on a distant alien world by a small waterfall surrounded by grass and trees and bathed in a soft purple light. His blue feet make the first footprints from anything humanoid that this planet has ever seen as he walks down to the river's edge. John scoops up a clump of silt from the riverbed. All boxes are mysteries, containing universes. He closes his hands around it, and a blue glow emits from between them. Just a little energy to accelerate evolution. Combine proteins and knit DNA into symphonies of elegance and potentiality. Fresh new cells now teem within the material as John lets it slip back into the water. And the glow begins to spread. I cannot wait to see what this new box reveals. Perhaps you will become something amazing. The entire river glows blue as life takes root here. And perhaps we will become something amazing together. The dawn of a new day shines on the planet's surface, as John has become a new blue sun at the center of his own solar system. I would like that. I would like that very much. The end. Now it's been theorized that maybe John was creating the DC universe there, or some other such nonsense, but I don't think it's anything like that. He's just going to try to be a chill, benevolent god and try to stay out of the complications that come with people's lives. Try to be more of a giving universal force like a sun rather than living as a man. But who knows? I can easily see him walking in disguise among the people as some Roman emperors used to do, dressing up as beggars to learn what the people really thought of them. Or he may turn his attention to the deeper quantum mysteries of the universe, perhaps try to explore beyond the Big Bang or the end of time, that sort of thing. Really, the universe is his oyster. And if you wish, you can follow him into Doomsday Clock, where he has somehow found his way into the DC universe and has to relearn the rules in a whole new reality. And at the end of that book, he is given a more final ending. If you wish to consider these the same canon, you can. Just assume John made a replacement sun for his pet worlds here before he left. I'm not sure how I feel about the light this book casts on the original Watchmen. I'd always taken John's general inaction as indicative of his disappearing humanity, so for this book to introduce a story-based reason for that inaction, his not wanting to override the quantum potential of everyone else's choices with his own godlike power, it somewhat lessens that aspect of his character. At the same time, this book greatly humanizes him, and while I think J. Michael Straczynski did the best job he could, I don't think he's capable of the same kind of soul-deep melancholy Alan Moore felt when writing the character, so that might not even be intentional. The other big thing it does is set the timeline in amber, which it already was, as Watchmen is a static work of art, and removes John's ability to make new choices on the fly. He still was able to make choices in his own future, he has to be free to act for the climax of the book to work, but he was only allowed one set of choices, all made in the past. As he said to Laurie, we're all puppets. I'm just a puppet who can see the strings. I do really like that he was the cause of his own accident, though. It takes the brutality out of it and gives him some agency in his transformation, which I feel strengthens his character. I like this version of John better, if I'm being honest, so I have to check myself and not be too forgiving when evaluating how true he is to his Watchmen portrayal. I remember that John wasn't miserable in the end. He smiled when he saw that Laurie and Dan had found each other without a hint of jealousy in him. Maybe it's that attitude J. Michael was trying to build towards, that acceptance. I don't know, but I find this a very interesting book and a fun thought experiment, and I hope you all have some things to think about from it as well. The next Before Watchmen series I'll adapt will be Night Owl, and it features Dan's origin finding Hollis Mason as a boy and training under him, then his debut and early career, including the team of Night Owl and Rorschach. So a lot more normal and a lot more superhero fun the next time around, and a lot less thinking, I promise. Until next time, take care out there, and as always, thanks for watching.